The following presentation is brought to you by the Education Fund of the League of Women Voters, Minnesota. We've all become familiar with the images of a political election. And with the advancements in technology, it sometimes seems like we hear who the projected winners are before the polls close. But as familiar as we are with the end results and election night drama, how many of us really know each step it takes to get there?
Our own state of Minnesota is one of the best when it comes to voter turnout. 78% of all eligible Minnesota voters cast their ballot in the last presidential election. 14% voted in the 2006 primary. And in 2008, a record-smashing 10% of Minnesota voters attended party caucus meetings. Let's start at the beginning, traveling on the road to Election Day.
There are 5 steps along the way. Attend your caucus meeting. Attend a convention. Register to vote. Vote in the September primary election. And vote in the November general election. We'll begin our journey with the major party caucuses. What is a caucus? A caucus is a group meeting held by a political party in neighborhoods or precincts throughout the state. Why should you care about a caucus if only 10% of people are involved? You should care and attend a caucus because this is how party candidates are chosen. Issues, which become part of party platforms, are discussed. This is how you, an individual, can have a real influence on the upcoming elections.
Each major political party holds its own caucus. Most people are familiar with the 3 biggest political parties: the Republican Party, the Democratic or DFL Party, and the Independence Party. These are major parties, having received at least 5% of the vote for a statewide candidate in the last general election. Minor parties also hold caucuses. These are parties that have received at least 1% of the vote for a statewide candidate in the last general election. The Green Party is a minor party in Minnesota.
Major and minor parties can share in the money available from the state election fund to help finance their candidates' campaigns. A basic goal of a caucus is to get party members together in small groups to vote on what they think their party should do about specific issues. This is called a platform. And this is where your concerns, such as education, environment, or healthcare, can be stated, discussed, and voted on. Go to your caucus prepared with information about your topic so you can speak up about it. Another purpose of the caucus is to determine support for candidates in the upcoming election. This is where straw polling for presidential candidates may be held. A caucus is also used to elect delegates who will attend the upcoming party conventions. Although there are rules and regulations, a caucus actually feels like a neighborhood meeting. It's casual and everyone should feel welcome. You don't have to belong to a party to attend a caucus. You simply have to be an eligible voter. Observers who cannot vote yet are also welcome. As we said earlier, even with the record turnout of 2008, only 10% of eligible voters actually participated in the caucuses. So think of the impact you could make if you get involved at this initial step on the road to Election Day.
Party caucuses are held in February or March, or even numbered years. The parties arrange for the meeting places. Watch the newspapers for the time, date, and place, or contact others on this list.
Our second step on the road to Election Day is the party convention. State law requires that major parties hold its state convention in every general election year. A series of conventions are held, starting at the Senate district or county level and advancing to the congressional district and the state level. In presidential election years, there's even a national convention, which you can see televised. Conventions are where the party's legislative, county, and statewide candidates are nominated. It can take many rounds of voting to get enough delegates to agree on one specific candidate for a statewide office. Once chosen at the party convention, this person is called the endorsed candidate and has access to the money available from the state election campaign fund. An endorsement also gives a candidate's campaign credibility and the resources of the party organization. By midsummer in an election year, we can expect to see an endorsed candidate for each major party office.
In addition to endorsing candidates, a convention is also used to define the party platform. This is where the final discussion of and support or opposition to an issue, education, environment, healthcare, for example, is voted on by the delegates. But not everyone may want to support the candidates that won endorsement at the party conventions. In Minnesota, the voters have a say in who will finally run at the primary election.
To vote in the primary election, you must be registered. Voter registration is the third step we take on the road to Election Day. To be an eligible voter, a person must be a U.S. citizen, at least 18 years old on Election Day, and a Minnesota resident for at least 20 days preceding the election. You may register to vote by filling out a Minnesota voter registration application. You can find this form in many places. At least 20 days before the election, fill out the form and mail it in or bring it in person to your city hall or county courthouse. After registering, you'll receive a card in the mail notifying you of your polling place. You may also register to vote on Election Day at your polling place. Just bring a Minnesota photo ID that has your current address. IDs that are accepted are shown on this list. If you have moved your old Minnesota photo ID, U.S. passport, or military ID, and a current utility bill with your name and new address as proof. If you do not have these IDs, bring someone who is registered to vote within your precinct to vouch for you. Is there anyone who may not register to vote? Anyone found by a court to be legally incompetent may not vote. Anyone who is under guardianship of another person keeps their right to vote unless the court specifically acts to remove voting rights during a guardianship. Anyone under sentence for felony or treason may not vote. Voting rights for Minnesota felons are automatically restored when the entire sentence, including probation, has been served. If you need your name to be withheld from the public information list due to safety reasons, you can complete a form to request this. It's available at the Secretary of State website and at the polling places.
Do I have to register for every election? No. Registration in Minnesota remains in effect as long as you vote at least every 4 years. If you move, the Secretary of State will move your registration to your postal forwarding address. If you change your name, you must register again.
Where do college students register to vote? As a college student, you can choose to cast your ballot at either your hometown polling place or the polling place where you live during the school year. You may select only one residence and vote once in any given election. The fourth step on the road to Election Day is the primary election, which is held on the first Tuesday after the second Monday in September.
Primary election involves only the major political parties. Currently in Minnesota, this means the DFL, Republican, and Independent parties. The purpose of a primary is to allow candidates not chosen at the convention a chance to run for office. Even though they have not been officially endorsed at a convention, they can still be on the ballot and run against the endorsed candidate.
All registered voters can participate in a primary election, but you can only vote in one party's primary. Most people vote for the candidate in the party they generally support, but you don't have to belong to a party to vote in the primary. You can just go to the polls on the day of the primary and make your choices in one, and only one, of the major parties. Once the votes are cast, the candidate who receives the highest number of votes is the official nominee of that party, even if he or she was not the endorsed candidate. So you can see how your participation in the entire voting process can make an impact. Vote in the November is the big one, the general election.
The general election is held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. This is the election that most people participate in, and where all the candidates from all of the parties come together on a ballot for the final vote. In Minnesota, we vote where we live, so your polling place will be near your current home address. To get specific information on where your polling place is for both the primary and general election, check with the League of Women Voters, your newspaper, or city or county. Voting hours are standard, 7 a.m. until 8 p.m., almost everywhere except in some small towns.
Minnesota law allows you to take time off from work with pay to vote during the morning of state primary and general election days. Also, consider voting after work to avoid crowds.
Everyone wants the voting process to be easy and accessible. Every precinct has ballot marking equipment available for people with disabilities. If, for some reason, you can't get out of your car, a ballot can be brought to you in your vehicle.
Voters who cannot make it to the polls due to illness, timing, or because they'll be out of town can still vote by using an absentee ballot. College students who live away from home can choose whether to vote by absentee ballot at their hometown polling place or vote in person at the precinct where they live at college. If you are in the military or outside the U.S., vote by absentee ballot based on where you last lived in Minnesota.
You or a family member can apply for your absentee ballot. Apply early, well in advance of Election Day. You can call or download the absentee ballot application from the Secretary of State website or call your city or county.
Your ballot will be mailed to you. Be sure to fill out all forms carefully and completely or risk having your vote invalidated. Use the pen or pencil specified. If you are not registered, you should fill out a registration card to send with your ballot. Now we're almost at the polls. Who will you vote for? There are many ways to find balanced and impartial information on the candidates. The League of Women Voters and other organizations sponsor televised and local debates. League of Women Voters Minnesota publishes a voter guide available at Target and on the website. Many daily and weekly newspapers provide voter guides that may also be helpful in making your decisions. To work as it should, democracy requires the participation of the citizens. The earlier we become involved in the election process, the more effectively our voices can be heard. Now that you know how easy it is to take part, we encourage you to get involved in each of the 5 steps on the road to Election Day. Attend a caucus to help decide what issues will be on the party platform. Be a delegate to a convention to determine endorsed candidates. Register to vote. Vote in the primary to choose your party's candidates, and vote in the general election. It's your right. Participate and vote. On behalf of the League of Women Voters Minnesota, we thank you for watching.